Hello, this is Sara Sach with Posh Pooch Designs, and today's video I'm going to be showing you how I made this amazing poncho. Now the original pattern was called the Cobblestone Amazing Poncho, and I called it the Cobblestone Amazing Poncho because I made it out of the Lion brand Cobblestone yarn, and I really like that yarn for this project, but I thought that it would be fun to try some other yarns. Now this one is made with, I love this yarn from Hobby Lobby in just their neon colors, and I really love this one. This one back here is made with Red Heart Super Saver, and it's the Americana. So basically you can use any worsted weight number 4 yarn for this project. For today's project, I'm going to be using the new Red Heart stripes, and this color is called Latte, and I thought it would be perfect for fall. Now this is a free pattern on my blog, and you can find that blog link down in the notes underneath the video. Now be sure and press that little tab that says see more or the black arrow if you're on a phone, and then the rest of the wording will come up and the link will be right under there. So what you're going to need for today's project is 5 ounces of any worsted weight number 4 yarn, and I'm really excited to try it with this one. You're going to need your J-hook. You're also going to need a pair of scissors and a needle for weaving in your ends. Before we get started, I'm going to explain to you how to size the neck opening so that any size can make an amazing poncho. All right, let's begin talking about the neck opening. If you stitch the pattern exactly as it's written on my blog, you're going to get approximately a 40-inch opening. And you can adjust this very easily for bigger or for smaller. 3 chains equal 1 inch, but you need to make sure that you do the repeat in 3 plus 6, which is 9. So you're going to need to repeat times 9 in order to get a larger or smaller opening. Now, I like my opening to be just a little bit snugger around my shoulders, but if you like yours to be just a little bit bigger, add more chains, and then the initial band will be bigger, or you can subtract to make it smaller. And the neat thing about this pattern, let me show you just this so that you can see. Basically what you're doing is we're making shell stitches with a chain and then a double crochet with a chain, and the way the pattern gets bigger is we add additional chains every so often, and then once we reach a certain amount of chains we just repeat and don't add any more chains. But if you want it to be bigger and drape more, you can do that. Add more chains in between. That's why this poncho is so versatile. I decided to write it up this way because I thought it made it a lot easier than trying to figure out the sizes, and then you would make the size and it wouldn't fit right. And this way you can measure as you go for whomever you are making this for, and when you measure you'll know it's going to fit that person. The other thing is the nice big loopy flower. That's the loopy flower that we did a video on the other day, and I'll link that up in the corner there so that you'll have that and you can click on that to learn how to make that beautiful loopy flower. It's my favorite flower to make. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. Gather up your supplies. Like I said, you're going to need about 5 ounces if you want to make it this size. If you want to make it longer, you can make it as long as you want to. We're going to be stitching with our J-hook, which is a 6mm. Let me look at it real quick. There we go. It's a 6mm J-hook. You're going to need a needle and a pair of scissors. That's all you need. Grab up those supplies and we'll get started. All right, so the first thing that we need to do is make our chain. So we're going to start with a slip knot, and we're going to chain 131 chains. And I know that seems like a lot, but remember, when we're beginning, 3 chains equal 1 inch, and you can adjust that if that's too many chains for you. So we're just going to make 131 chains. I do suggest that when you're doing this initial beginning chain, because we're starting at the neck, that you try to chain just a little bit loose. And if you have a tendency to make a beginning chain tightly, you can always go up to the next hook size just for the chain and not the body of the poncho, just for this initial chain if you find yourself chaining too tightly. All right, so we're going to chain 131 chains. So let me show you a quick little trick that I do when I have to chain a whole bunch of chains. I've already chained 50 chains. So I'm going to take a piece of yarn that's a different color. I just cut off a string about 10 inches, and I'm going to pull it through that 50th chain. There we go. Whoops, not both sides, just the one side. And I'll let that sit there like that, and that tells me I've got 50 chains, and then I can do my next 50, and it just helps me keep from losing count when I'm chaining a large chain. Just something that might help. I've got a few more because I'm stitching 130, so I've got a couple more ready so that I don't lose count on the next ones. So I'm going to chain 50 more and use another piece of string to mark my next 50 stitches. It's just something that you can do to help you. You can also use a stitch marker or something like that. I've chained my 131 stitches. I've left my green lines in here just so that I know where they're at. But what we need to do now is we need to join to that first chain without twisting. And so what I do is I lay it out flat so that the braid, the part that's the top of the chain that looks like a braid, is laying flat, because we're doing a really large chain and I want to make sure my chain doesn't get twisted. All right, so I'm going to take my hook, go right in that first chain, pull up a loop, and pull that loop right through that chain that was already on my hook, and chain 1. Now this next row, we're just going to stitch a single crochet in each of the chains, and that just gives us a little bit of a foundation to stitch the remainder of our poncho. Now what I would do at this point is take a look at it, try it on your neck, see if it's going to lay where you want it to, and before you add that next row of single crochets, you may want to add or subtract some chains to make sure that it lays the way that you like. All right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to stitch a single crochet in each of these chains. So we're going to go right in that chain. We're going to pull up a loop. You'll have 2 loops on your hook. Yarn over and go through, oops, both of those loops. And we're going to do this all the way around. And like I said, this just gives us a nice foundation to stitch all of our shell stitches on. Now, when I've used a little bit thinner yarn, I've done a half double crochet. So this particular row, you could do a single or you could do a half, or if you wanted the band on your poncho to be even thicker, you could do a double crochet as well. It's kind of up to you how thick you want that band around the top of your poncho. So this is how it should look if you're doing the single crochet. 1 single crochet in each chain around, all the way around, and then when we get back over here, we'll join to that first single crochet that we stitched, and then we'll get to begin the pattern with the shells. So we've single crocheted in each chain around. Now we're going to join to that first single crochet. We're going to put our hook through, yarn over, pull the yarn through there, and then pull that yarn through the loop that's already on our hook, and then chain one. Alright, so here is the neckband for our poncho. And again, take a look at it, make sure it's the size that you want. If it's too big, make it smaller. You know, just make sure, because now we're getting ready to start our shell stitches, and you won't be able to change it without pulling it all out if you made it too big or too small. Alright, so what we're going to do next is we're going to chain 2 more, because the chain 3 here counts as 1 double crochet. We're going to stitch another double crochet in that same stitch. We're going to chain 2. Whoops, lost a string there. There we go. And then we're going to place 2 more double crochets in this same stitch. And if you're not sure what a double crochet is, yarn over, go in that stitch and pull up a loop. You'll have 3 loops on your hook. You'll yarn over, go through the first 2, yarn over, and go through the second 2. So we have a chain 3 that counts as our first double crochet, then we have a double crochet, chain 2, and then 2 double crochets in the same stitch. Alright, now we're going to chain 1. We're going to skip the next 2 stitches, and we're going to stitch 1 double crochet. So we have a chain 1, we're skipping 2 stitches, and we're going to stitch 1 double crochet in the next stitch. And then chain 1. And this pretty much is our repeat for all the way around this row of our poncho. I'm just going to pull a little bit more yarn out there so I'm not pulling. Alright, so we did a chain 1. We're going to skip 2 stitches. In the next stitch, we're going to stitch 2 double crochets. We're going to chain 2 and stitch 2 double crochets, all in the same stitch. We'll chain 1, we'll skip 2 single crochets, 1, 2, and then we'll stitch 1 double crochet in that next stitch and chain 1. See how the repeat works? Skip the next 2 stitches, and then in the next stitch, 2 double crochets, chain 2, 2 double crochets. Chain 1, skip the next 2, and double crochet in the next. Chain 1. So there's another repeat. And we're going to repeat this all the way around. 2 double crochets, chain 2, 2 double crochets in the next stitch, skip 2 stitches, chain 1, 1 double crochet, chain 1. And repeat. Skip 2 stitches, 2 double crochet, chain 2, 2 double crochet, chain 1, skip 2, 1 double crochet. And you can see how the pattern works. And this is what we'll stitch all the way around our poncho for this row. I'll show you again just to make sure. Skip the next 2 stitches. And then in the next stitch, we're going to stitch 2 double crochets, chain 2, 2 double crochets. then we chain 1, skip 2 single crochets, and stitch 1 double crochet in this next stitch, and chain 1. And that's the repeat all the way around our whole poncho till we get back to here. So I finished this row doing 2 double crochet, chain 2, 2 double crochets, chain 1, 1 double crochet, chain 1, and repeat all the way around. When you get to the end, you're going to end with your single double crochet, chain 1, and then you're going to skip those last 2 stitches and join to the top of the chain 3 with a slip stitch. And then you'll slip stitch in that next double crochet, and then slip stitch right in that chain 2 space of that shell stitch and chain 3. And that's how that row is joined. All right, so for the next row, we're going to do exactly the same thing. The only difference is where we put a chain 1 on both sides of that double crochet, we're going to put a chain 2. So we've already done our chain 3, which counts as a double crochet. So we're going to double crochet, chain 2, and double crochet in that same chain 2 space. The shell stitches will always be the same. And now we're going to chain 2, double crochet in the top of the double crochet, and chain 2. So as you can see, we're going to be repeating what we did. The only difference is we'll be doing a chain 2 on both sides of that single double crochet, or the individual double crochet. All right, my yarn's going a little bit dark here, so I'm trying to give you some light here so you can see. All right, so we're going to go right in this next shell stitch, and we're going to stitch 2 double crochets. We're going to chain 2 and stitch 2 double crochets. Chain 2, double crochet in the top of the single or individual double crochet, and chain 2. And this is how this next row will work. Like I said, it's exactly the same as a previous row, only we're doing a chain 2 before and after the individual double crochet between the shells. All right, I'll do one more. We've already chained 2, so we need 2 double crochets, chain 2, 2 double crochets, some more yarn here, chain 2, 1 double crochet in the top of that individual double crochet, and chain 2. And that's our repeat. We do our shell stitch, chain 2, 1 double crochet, chain 2. Your shell stitches are always in your shell stitch, and your single or individual double crochet is always in the double crochet. We'll do this all the way around and join back to the top of this chain 3. You can see how this row turned out. We've got the 2 double crochets, chain 2, 2 double crochet, then we chain 2, 1 double crochet, chain 2, and repeat that all the way around. Now it's time to join. We'll put our double crochet in our double crochet, chain 2, and then join to the top of that chain 3, and again slip stitch in that next double crochet, slip stitch in that first chain 2 space, and chain 3. Now for the next 2 rows we're going to be doing exactly what we did for this row. We're going to do 2 double crochets, chain 2, 2 double crochets, and then we'll do chain 2, 1 double crochet, chain 2, and we'll repeat this exactly the same for the next 2 rows. And then after that we'll do some more increases. So there are no increases for the next 2 rows. Just stitch the next 2 rows exactly like you did this one. So this is how the poncho should look at this point. We have 3 rows where we did 2 chains in between our individual double crochets on both sides. 2 double crochets, chain 2, 2 double crochets for the shell, chain 2, 1 double crochet, chain 2. Repeat it all the way around for 3 rows. And this gives us a really beautiful looking little cow, even if you wanted to wear it just like that. Alright, so now we're going to do the next 3 rows. Let me turn this around. I've already joined to the top of my chain 3 and slip stitched to that first chain 2 space. And this next row and then the 2 following rows are similar because we stitched the shells the same. The difference is we're going to have a chain 3 before and after that individual double crochet. So I've got my chain 3, 1 double crochet, chain 2, and 2 double crochets in that first shell stitch. And then I'm going to chain 3. I'm going to place my double crochet in the top of the double crochet, and chain 3. And then again, shell stitch in the center of the shell stitch. And of course, the shell stitch is 2 double crochets, chain 2, 2 double crochets. Then we'll chain 3. We'll place a double crochet in the top of the double crochet and chain 3. And this is how this row will work. Shell stitch, which is 2 double crochets, chain 2, 2 double crochets. Then we'll chain 3, 1 double crochet in the double crochet, chain 3, and then we'll repeat that all the way around. So it's exactly almost like the previous 3 rows, only we have 3 chains before and after our individual double crochet. We'll repeat this all the way around and join to the top of our chain 3. There's our shell stitch, chain 3, double crochet in the next double crochet, and chain 3. So here's this row that we just did where we put 3 chains before and after the individual double crochet. Shell stitch, chain 3, double crochet, chain 3. Repeat all the way around. We're going to join whoops, I need to do my chain 3 at the end, join to the top of that chain 3 where we started, at the top of that one, a little snug. There we go. Slip stitch in that next double crochet, and slip stitch in the chain 2 space, and chain 3. Now, the next 2 rows we're going to do exactly like we did this row. We're going to do the shell stitch with the chain 3, 1 double crochet, chain 3 for 2 more rows. I have stitched the last 3 rows with the shell stitch and then 3 chains, 1 double crochet, and 3 chains, stitching the last 3 rows exactly the same. So we started with the chain 1, then we did 3 rows of 2 chains between, and then we did 3 rows with 3 chains in between. And this is the way the poncho will work. The shell stitches will be the same, and then the next 3 rows we will have 4 chains, our double crochet, and 4 chains. And then we'll do 3 rows like that, and you'll continue to increase until you have 5 chains in between for 3 rows. And that's where I end. But if you want to continue to increase, you certainly can. If you made it larger at the neck, you may not want to make it that much bigger. I really like stopping after the next 3 rows like this one, because it makes a shorty poncho. But when I made the red, white, and blue one, I went ahead and did a lot more rows just to make it longer. So you see, you can do it as long as you would like. So the way the rest of the pattern will work is you'll do the shell stitches the same, and for 3 rows you'll have 4 chains, double crochet, 4 chains, and then 3 rows after that you'll do the shells the same, and you'll have 5 chains, the double crochet, and 5 chains. And that's all the increasing that I did, and I just continued on with the 5 chains in between just to make it longer. You can continue to increase the amount of chains between if you want to make it even wider. It's nice to have a nice wide poncho if you're going to wear it over a bathing suit or a tank top or something, or you might want a short one to wear over a shirt. Both is fine. They work great, and this is why I call this the amazing poncho, because you can pretty much make it as long or as short as you want, and as wide or as narrow as you want. Just make sure you measure as you go. I've already joined and slip stitched to the chain 2 and then chained 3. So I'm going to go ahead and place another double crochet, chain 2, and then 2 more double crochets in that same chain 2 space to complete our shell stitch. Now I'm going to chain 4. And then I'm going to skip over here to my double crochet and stitch a double crochet. And then I'm going to chain 4. And this is how we'll repeat all the way around our poncho. We'll stitch 2 double crochets, chain 2 and 2 double crochets in the chain 2 space of the next shell stitch. Then we'll chain 4. Then we'll stitch a double crochet in the next double crochet. And then we'll chain 4. And we'll do this all the way around. Join to the top of our chain 3, and then we'll repeat this for 2 more rows. Shell stitch, chain 4, double crochet, chain 4. So this is how your rows should look after your 11th row on your poncho. Our first row was our single crochet. Our next row was our shell stitches with a chain 1, double crochet, chain 1. And then we did 1, 2, 3 rows with our shell stitch, our chain 2, double crochet, chain 2. Then we did 3 rows of our shell stitch with chain 3, double crochet, chain 3 in between. Then we did the last 3 rows with our shell stitch with a chain 4, double crochet, chain 4 in between. So as we increased, we added a chain doing 3 rows. So the next row, if you want to continue to increase, you're going to do your shell stitches with 5 chains, your double crochet, and 5 chains. And you continue to increase if you want to. I'm going to continue to increase with the 5 chains for 3 more rows, and then I'm going to tie off. I finished the 14th row, and that's as long as I want to make this poncho. So I'm going to go ahead and tie that off. And I'm going to use my needle to weave that end in. I'm just going to thread the end of that yarn right on my needle. And I'm just going to go in and try to stay in those colors so where I weave in doesn't show through. Just go one way and then back the other a couple of times. There we go. And clip that off. And then I've got a loopy flower here that I already made, and I posted that link at the beginning of the video. And this is just a double layer one, not a great big one. I just love these loopy flowers. And I'm going to stitch it on right about there so it looks really pretty. And I'll just use my piece of string that I left on. We'll thread that onto my needle. And I'll just go through a couple places, making sure I grab. I like to try to do it right on one of the shell stitches because it has something, you know, a little more to grab. We'll just go back and forth a few times, making sure it's on there nice and snug. Make sure I get that in there good. And just weave that a couple of times so it stays put. There we go. Clip that off. And here's my poncho. My Amazing Stripes poncho with this pretty loopy flower. So here is my Amazing Stripes poncho with a loopy flower made out of red hearts, new stripes. This is in Latte. Isn't it gorgeous? I love this striping yarn. The Amazing Stripes poncho.